When the transfer student introduced herself, floating comments suddenly appeared before my eyes. Here we go. The female lead falls for the male lead at first sight, despite him having a girlfriend. She launches an aggressive pursuit. The male lead goes from disgust to gradually being won over. So excited for this to start. The female lead is making eye contact with the male lead. Sure enough, the transfer student, Lucy Jackson, who had just finished her introduction, walked straight toward my seat. "Excuse me, can I sit in your seat?" she asked. My boyfriend beside me clicked his tongue impatiently. "Who the hell do you think you are to sit next to me?" The comments scrolled frantically. The male lead's tongue is so sharp. I can't wait to see him fall for the female lead later. And desperately apologize with regret. Yeah, this side character girlfriend is so clueless. Better give up her seat now. Maybe the male lead will spare her later. From the comments, I could tell. I was the villainous supporting character in a chasing the wife story. The male lead's childhood friend. The female lead fell for the male lead at first sight. And I, dissatisfied with her relentless pursuit, obstructed her at every turn, and even framed her becoming completely villainous. The male lead became thoroughly disappointed in me for turning evil, and fell for the resilient female lead instead. And to please the female lead, he destroyed my family, ultimately driving us all to jump into a river and commit suicide. I frowned slightly at this information. Lucy's eyes reddened when she heard Brandon White's words, her body swaying as if about to collapse. Whole class erupted in shock. I stood up indifferently. "If you want to sit here, go ahead. Just a man, and one who would change his heart at that. Why should I care? Besides, wasn't it always Brandon who pursued me at my words?" Lucy looked at me in disbelief, while Brandon grabbed my hand, looking at Lucy with disgust. "Get lost." So unlucky. Lucy's face turned deathly pale as she looked at Brandon pitifully. "I just felt a connection with you. I'm new here, and don't understand anything." So then, as if encouraging herself, she said, "Plus, my grades are really good. I was always ranked first in my grade before transferring. I can tutor you." Brandon sneered. "First in grade. Our Jennifer is also first in grade. What makes you qualified to tutor me?" In the end, the seat wasn't switched, and Lucy voluntarily went to sit by the trash can. As soon as class ended, Lucy went out and bought a big bag of bubble teas. He said shyly, "Since I'm new here, please take care of me. This is my treat for everyone." Everyone cheered, but when it came to me, there suddenly wasn't any left. Lucy looked at me apologetically. "I'm so sorry. How about I give you mine?" She started to hand me her cup. I reflexively raised my hand. "No need, thanks." Before I finished speaking, the cup spilled all over Lucy. Her eyes reddened. "Jennifer, I know my request this morning was too presumptuous, but I already apologized. And you made me sit by the trash can. What? What more do you want?" This immediately sparked outrage. I've been fed up with her for a while. She usually acts like she's better than everyone, because Brandon likes her. And now she's bullying the new student. I wondered why Lucy had to sit by the trash can when there were other seats. Turns out Jennifer made her. Jennifer's family isn't poor. Why torture someone over a cup of bubble tea? Since Lucy was only wearing a thin shirt, the spilled drink made her figure visible underneath. The comments were all praising Lucy's cleverness, not at all seeing her as a homewrecker, even thinking she was sacrificing for love. I was about to explain when Brandon, who had been silent, impatiently threw his jacket to her and shouted, "Everyone shut up. Get the hell out." The other students were afraid of Brandon, so they stopped talking, but their eyes remained hostile toward me. After Lucy left, looking aggrieved, Brandon said quietly, "I only like you. You don't need to target her." I instinctively asked what, but he turned away and pretended to sleep. Feeling suffocated and angry, I believed even more what the comments said. To avoid an even worse fate, I went to the teacher to change seats. If I couldn't provoke them, couldn't I at least avoid them? But when I returned from seeing the teacher, I saw Lucy sitting in my seat, tutoring Brandon, wearing his oversized jacket. She was practically pressed against him. Both looked flustered when they saw me. Lucy immediately stood up to apologize. "I'm sorry. It's just that Brandon helped me earlier, so I wanted to help him with some problems." And Lucy squatted down to wipe my chair. "If you don't like me, I'll clean it for you right now." I was about to speak when Brandon pulled Lucy up, saying coldly, "We're all human. You don't need to be afraid of her." Then he looked at me and explained flatly, "Nothing's going on between us." I smiled and nodded, "I know." Then I calmly walked over, gathered my books, and moved to sit in the first row. Brandon suddenly grabbed my hand and shouted, "What are you doing?" Lucy also said, "Do you hate me that much?" I looked at everyone about to criticize me again and sighed. "You misunderstood. With the SATs coming up, I just want to sit in the front row. Besides, Lucy wants to sit next to you." Isn't this perfect? Plus, I don't want her sitting by the trash can. What if it affects her studying? Brandon looked at me coldly. Can you stop this act? I looked at him bewildered. Brandon sneered and directly moved Lucy's things over. From now on, you're my desk mate. Lucy blushed amid the class's teasing. I thought as long as I didn't provoke them, everything would be fine. But the comments started going crazy again. Lucy is so smart. She realizes Brandon is just trying to make his girlfriend jealous by using her. So Lucy decides to ruin Jennifer's reputation. In tomorrow's practice test, destroyed Jennifer's image in Brandon's heart. My heart lurched. What was she planning to do? Time quickly came to the day the practice test results were announced. The teacher happily said in class, "Our class is first place." And the grades first place both go to Jennifer Young. She scored 1570. The whole room erupted. The teacher continued, "Second place is our new student, Lucy Jackson with 1510. Also, very good. Come up and get your prizes." Lucy hesitantly stood up and said to the teacher, "Teacher, I won't take it. I had a bad feeling." The teacher paused and quickly asked what was wrong. Finally, Lucy glanced at me looking conflicted before saying, "I saw Jennifer with cheat notes that day. This test wasn't fair. I want to give my prize to the next student." As soon as she said this, everyone was stunned. A nosy student posted this on the school forum. The teacher's smile faded, becoming serious. "Lucy, you need evidence to make accusations." Lucy cried out, aggrieved. "I saw it, but if you're going to cover for her, I can't help it. But this is wrong. It's unfair to other students and irresponsible to herself." Students began gossiping. I knew Jennifer's grades were too good. Maybe she's been cheating all along. Lucy is such a queen, so brave. Brandon also looked at me with a complicated expression. The teacher asked for silence, then asked if I had anything to say. I stood up and looked directly at Lucy. "You really saw me cheating?" Lucy still looked stubborn, nodding, acting like even if you're powerful, I won't fear you. I smiled slightly. Good thing the comments gave me a heads up, and I prepared early. I continued asking which subject and when did I cheat. Lucy said, "All subjects." The whole time I smiled and pulled out a USB drive. But I found that the person who actually cheated is someone else. Lucy's smile froze and she panicked. "What do you mean?" I handed the USB to the teacher. "Teacher, this is the surveillance footage I copied this morning. Full HD, fast-forwarded, unedited." Just as the teacher was about to copy the USB, Lucy suddenly shouted, looking at me pleadingly, "Wait, I might have been mistaken." I smiled. Hearing his false being is believing surveillance doesn't lie. Besides, I don't want to be wrongly accused. "What are you afraid of?" Lucy's face turned pale. The comments loyally defended their protagonist. When will the supporting character go offline? How did the plot get so derailed? Lucy's test performance was just a bit off, because she's been pursuing the male lead. So she wanted to cheat. Why is the supporting character so disgusting to expose Lucy? Why didn't the supporting character take the bait? She had just let Lucy frame her. The male lead would definitely be completely won over, especially after Lucy's efforts these past few days. The male lead is already interested. Our Lucy is just so adorable. But the video was already playing. Halfway through, Lucy was sneakily taking pictures of test questions with her phone and glaring at me venomously. Everyone's mouths dropped open. By the end of the video, I never pulled out any supposed cheat notes. The students' attitude shifted. One girl muttered, "Wow, isn't she totally fake? And isn't Brandon Jennifer's boyfriend? Why is she always flirting and bringing him lunch?" People who didn't know would think she's Brandon's girlfriend. Lucy's face turned deathly pale, tears filling her eyes as she fainted into Brandon's arms. Brandon's expression darkened. He picked up Lucy, looking at me coldly. "You've gone too far. You were the one who wanted to move seats, and now you're bullying Lucy. Why are you so disgusting?" With that, he carried Lucy away without looking back. I ignored their drama. As long as I cleared my name, that was enough. But the comments started revealing spoilers again. Lucy nestles in the male lead's arms, like a child who did something wrong. But what's wrong with falling in love? Look to comfort Lucy. The male lead agrees to make Jennifer fail the SATs. Lucy is still too soft-hearted. If it were me, I'd just kill her off. Relax. Even if Lucy does nothing, that supporting character won't get off easy. The entire school forum is dragging her. It's bound to affect her grades. My heart sank, so I went to the teacher's office. In the following days, Brandon and Lucy were constantly together, saying ambiguous things to lead others to mock me. But I remained unmoved. When the whole school was insulting me, I directly presented evidence, making it crystal clear that Brandon cheated. And Lucy knowingly became the other woman and tried to get people to attack me. Lucy saw everyone looking at her with contempt. Brandon stood up and broke up with me in front of everyone. He looked at me with disgust, mixed with anticipation. Have you caused enough trouble? You were the one who pushed me toward her.
What?
Regretting it now. I sneered. Let's break up. Brandon looked at me in disbelief, somewhat gritting his teeth. Fine, break up then. Don't regret it. Lucy also cried and apologized. Jennifer, it's my fault. But true love is innocent. I don't want to leave regrets in my youth. I looked at these two idiots speechlessly and directly exposed the fact that she cheated and framed me. In the end, Lucy was so agitated she fainted and Brandon carried her away again. Time passed as I studied, did practice problems and fought back against Lucy. The day before the SAT, after finishing my last practice problem and preparing to rest, Brandon came to find me. He looked at me with complex eyes and got straight to the point. You not take the SAT tomorrow. I was so angry I laughed.
Why?
Brandon said, you always overshadow Lucy. If you still take the SAT, Lucy will be devastated. I looked bewildered. What does that have to do with me? Brandon looked at me helplessly. I know you're still angry, but Lucy is different.
She only has me.
Besides, weren't you the one who wanted to change seats? Anyway, don't take the S out tomorrow. Or what if Lucy gets upset seeing you and performs poorly? I sneered and kicked him out. What a lunatic. The next day, I still went to the test center. Lucy's eyes reddened the moment she saw me. The comments were also cursing frantically, with one particularly prominent. She really didn't listen. The male lead still had feelings for her, but if she keeps acting like this, she can't blame him for what happens next. She brought this on herself. I frowned slightly. The moment I made eye contact with Brandon, his eyes turned cold, full of displeasure at my disobedience. Just as I finished my last test and was about to leave the exam room, a proctor stopped me, her voice loud. Student, please take out your cheat notes. The proctor's voice echoed in the suddenly silent hallway outside the exam room. Several students who had just handed in their papers stopped in their tracks, turning to look at me with wide eyes. Right on cue, the golden, translucent text of the comments began scrolling frantically before my eyes. Here we go. The male lead is so ruthless when protecting his girl. He planted the notes in her right pocket during the break. Serves her right for staying in the exam. If she just quit like Brandon told her to, she would have saved her dignity. Can't wait to see her beg and cry when her SAT score is invalidated.
I didn't panic.
I didn't cry. I just looked at the proctor, a stern-faced woman who seemed oddly nervous, her eyes darting briefly toward the end of the hall where Brandon and Lucy stood. Lucy had her hands clasped over her mouth in a perfect picture of innocent shock, while Brandon watched me with a cold, triumphant smirk. Cheat notes? I asked, keeping my voice level. Ma'am, I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, the proctor snapped, stepping closer. Someone reported that you slipped a folded piece of paper into your right jacket pocket when you went to the restroom during the section break. Empty it.
Now.
I sighed, letting a look of mild amusement cross my face.
Okay.
But just to be clear, I want everyone here to witness this. I reached into my right pocket. Brandon's smirk widened. Lucy leaned forward, her eyes glittering with anticipation. I pulled my hand out, turning the pocket inside out. It was completely empty. A collective gasp rippled through the onlookers. The proctor froze, her face flushing crimson.
What?
No, it has to be there. Check the left one. I obliged, pulling the left pocket out. A piece of lint floated to the floor. Nothing else. Brandon's smug expression shattered. He took a step forward, his voice cracking. That's impossible. I saw. He caught himself, realizing he was about to confess to knowing too much, but the damage was done. You saw what, Brandon? I asked, tilting my head. The comments in the air were lagging, then suddenly exploded in chaotic red text. Wait, where did the notes go? Glitch? Did the author rewrite the chapter?
Impossible.
Brandon definitely put them there. I read his POV. Before the exam started, I said, projecting my voice so the entire hallway could hear, I noticed someone bumping into my jacket where it hung on the coat rack outside the restroom. Knowing that some people in this school harbor a bizarre grudge against me, I didn't take any chances. I turned my gaze past the stunned proctor and gestured to the end of the hall. The head of the testing center, Mr. Davis, was walking toward us, flanked by 2 security guards. In Mr. Davis's hand was a clear plastic evidence bag containing a tightly folded piece of paper. Miss Young came to me during the break, Mr. Davis announced, his voice booming with authority. She found this in her pocket and immediately turned it in, requesting a thorough search of her person to prove she carried nothing into the exam room. She has been under my direct observation ever since. He stopped in front of the proctor, his expression thunderous. Furthermore, she requested we check the hallway security cameras. It seems someone deliberately planted this on her. Lucy's face lost all its color. She swayed, genuinely looking like she might faint this time, but Brandon was too rigid to catch her. He was staring at the plastic bag in absolute horror. Mr. White, Mr. Davis said coldly. The cameras clearly caught you slipping this into Miss Yang's coat. Attempting to frame another student and compromise the integrity of a national exam is a severe offense. Your SAT scores will be canceled immediately, and we have already contacted the college board and your parents. No, Brandon shouted, his composure snapping. He pointed a trembling finger at me. She set me up. She's vicious. She's been bullying Lucy since she got here, trying to ruin her mental state. I just wanted to teach her a lesson. I laughed. It wasn't a bitter laugh, just genuine disbelief at his sheer stupidity. You tampered with a federal testing site to teach me a lesson over high school drama? Brandon, are you genuinely insane, or just completely devoid of brain cells? The male lead is going to be disqualified? The comments were moving sluggishly now, as if the readers behind them were in shock. This is a Chasing the Wife novel. The male lead is supposed to be an all-powerful genius. Why is he acting like a brainless thug? This supporting character is too OP. I'm dropping this. Brandon, Lucy whispered, tears streaming down her face. But to my surprise and the comments' horror, she didn't move to defend him. Instead, she took a subtle step back, distancing herself. Why would you do something so awful? I told you I wanted a fair competition with Jennifer. Brandon turned to her, bewildered. Lucy, I did this for you. You said you couldn't sleep last night because she was stressing you out. I never asked you to break the law. Lucy cried, covering her face. She looked at Mr. Davis. Sir, I had nothing to do with this. I swear. I watched the perfect couple turn on each other in the span of 30 seconds. It was almost poetic. Brandon looked at Lucy as if he didn't recognize her, the romantic filter of the plot finally cracking under the weight of real-world consequences. Save it for the disciplinary board, Mr. Davis said sharply. Both of you come with me. As the guards escorted a devastated Brandon and a sobbing Lucy down the hall, the remaining students looked at me with a mixture of awe and fear. I simply zipped up my jacket, slung my backpack over my shoulder, and walked out into the bright afternoon sun. For the first time since the transfer student arrived, the air in front of my eyes was completely clear. No comments. Just the quiet rustle of the wind. The fallout was catastrophic for the male lead. The school board didn't care about his wealthy family's donations when the college board was involved. Brandon was expelled to save the school's reputation. His SAT score was permanently voided, meaning his early admissions to Ivy League schools were instantly revoked. Lucy fared no better. Without Brandon there to feed her answers or intimidate the teachers into grading her leniently, her true academic level was exposed. When the SAT scores were released a month later, I scored a perfect 1600. Lucy scored an 1120. It wasn't a terrible score for an average student, but for the genius transfer student who claimed she could tutor the top of the class, it was a humiliating public execution. She tried to spin it, claiming the trauma of Brandon's actions had ruined her focus. But the school forum, once her greatest weapon, had turned into a firing squad. Without the male lead's halo suppressing everyone's common sense, the students finally saw her for what she was, a manipulative, dramatic liar. She was ostracized, eating lunch alone by the very trash cans she had once weaponized against me. But the plot, it seemed, wasn't done with me yet. The comments, which had been blissfully silent for weeks, suddenly sparked back to life one evening while I was eating dinner with my parents. The crematorium arc is finally starting. Brandon's dad beat him half to death, but he gave him a position in the white group. Brandon is going dark.
Yes.
He's going to bankrupt Jennifer's family to force her to her knees. Then he'll make her his mistress to torture her, only to realize he loves her. Can't wait to see Jennifer's arrogant face when she has to beg Brandon for money to save her parents. I paused with my fork halfway to my mouth, staring at the glowing text. A cold fury settled in my chest. Bankrupt my family? Force me to be a mistress? The sheer audacity of this trashy novel's logic was staggering. In their eyes, I wasn't a human being. I was just a prop to be broken so a toxic boy could learn how to love. Jenny, is the steak too tough? My father asked, noticing my frozen posture. My father, Richard Young, was a self-made man. He had built Young Logistics from a single delivery truck into a massive supply chain empire. He was shrewd, calculating, and ruthlessly protective of his family. The idea that a disgraced 18-year-old high school dropout could bankrupt him was laughable, but I knew the plot had a way of warping reality to favor its protagonists. I couldn't take any chances. Dad, I said, putting my fork down. How intertwined is our supply network with the White Group's retail division? My father wiped his mouth, his eyes sharpening. He never treated me like a child. He knew I was preparing to take over the company one day. About 20% of their freight runs through our northern hubs.
Why?
Is this about the white boy who got expelled? Yes, I said smoothly. I have Reliable information that Brandon White has convinced his father to let him handle the logistics department to prove himself. And I have reason to believe he's planning to use that position to attack us. My mother, a formidable corporate lawyer, frowned. Attack us?
How?
They rely on our infrastructure. I looked at the comments, which were gleefully spoiling the male lead's brilliant business strategy. He's going to abruptly cancel the Northern Freight contracts and shift to their rival, Apex Shipping, while simultaneously short-selling Yang Logistics stock. He even bought out the union leader at Yang's warehouse to strike at the exact same time. It's going to be a bloodbath. I took a deep breath and relayed the exact strategy to my parents, phrasing it as a rumor I'd overheard from Brandon's lackeys. My father's expression turned remarkably calm, the kind of calm that preceded a hurricane. Is that so? He wants to break the Northern contracts without notice and incite a strike? The penalty clauses on those contracts alone would bleed the White Group dry if they don't have absolute proof of our negligence. And if Apex Shipping suddenly didn't have the capacity to take their freight, my mother mused, a dangerous smile playing on her lips. I happen to know Apex is heavily leveraged right now. If someone were to buy up their debt, we could acquire Apex, my father finished, his eyes gleaming. Let the boy cancel the contracts. Let him pay the termination fees. When he runs to Apex, he'll find out we own them. He'll have nowhere to move his goods. The White Group's inventory will rot in the warehouses. As for the union, my mother added, typing rapidly on her phone, I'll have our private investigators look into the union leader's finances tonight. If he's taking bribes from a teenager, we'll hand him over to the feds before he can utter the word strike. I watched my parents work with a profound sense of peace. The novel wanted to treat my family as fragile stepping stones for the male lead's ego. It forgot that in the real world, adults with billions of dollars and decades of cutthroat business experience don't roll over for hormonal teenagers. Over the next 2 months, the trap was set. Brandon, desperate to regain his father's approval and blinded by his vendetta against me, played right into our hands. He thought he was the ruthless, omnipotent CEO of a romance novel. He didn't realize he was swimming with actual sharks. When the strike failed to materialize, the union leader having been quietly arrested for embezzlement days prior, Brandon panicked. He had already pulled the plug on the Yang contracts and paid the astronomical penalty fees, assuming he'd make it back by crashing our stock. But our stock didn't crash because my father had seamlessly transitioned our operations. When Brandon tried to move the White Group's massive holiday inventory through Apex Shipping, he received a polite corporate letter informing him that Apex was now a subsidiary of Yang Enterprise and they were currently unavailable to take new clients. The comments floating in my vision during those weeks were a hilarious descent into madness. Wait, what? Why didn't the strike happen? How did Jennifer's dad buy Apex in 3 days? That's impossible. Where is Brandon's CEO aura? Why is he losing? This author is trash. The male lead looks like a clown. The climax of Brandon's disastrous business venture happened on a rainy Tuesday. I was sitting in my favorite cafe near the school, drinking a matcha latte and reviewing my acceptance letter to Stanford when the bell above the door chimed. Brandon walked in. He looked like a ghost. He had lost weight, his designer suit hung loosely on his frame, and the arrogant spark in his eyes had been entirely extinguished. Behind him trailed Lucy, looking equally miserable, clutching a cheap umbrella. Brandon spotted me and walked over. He didn't yell. He didn't command. He just stood there, looking at the Stanford folder on my table. You did this, he rasped, his voice hollow. You told your father. You knew exactly what I was going to do. I did, I admitted, taking a sip of my latte. You're very predictable, Brandon. My family is ruined, he said, his voice cracking. My dad, the board forced him out. We're facing bankruptcy. We have to sell the house. He fell to his knees right there in the cafe. The few patrons turned to stare, but I felt nothing.
No pity, no triumph.
Just a profound sense of exhaustion. Jennifer, please, Brandon begged, tears mixing with the rain on his face.
I'm sorry.
I was wrong. I was so stupid. Please ask your father to lease us the Apex trucks. Just for a month. We'll pay double. If we miss the holiday shipping window, the company is dead. Suddenly, a new wave of comments erupted in front of me, shining a brilliant, desperate gold. Forgive him. This is the crematorium. He's begging.
Yes.
She should take him back now. He's learned his lesson. He will be a devoted dog to her now. This is the turning point. They can rebuild the company together. I stared at the text, thoroughly disgusted by the ideology of the readers. They believed that destroying my life, framing me, and trying to bankrupt my family could all be washed away because he got on his knees. I looked down at Brandon. Get up, Brandon. It's pathetic. Please, Jennifer. I don't run the company, I said coldly. My father does. And my father doesn't do business with liabilities. You played a grown man's game with a child's temperament and you lost. Actions have consequences. I picked up my Stanford folder and stood up. As I walked past him, Lucy suddenly reached out and grabbed my sleeve. Jennifer, wait, she pleaded, her eyes wide. Can't you help us?
I
have nothing. Brandon promised he'd take care of me, but now he's broke. I can't live like this. Brandon's head snapped up, staring at Lucy in shock. Lucy, what are you saying? Lucy ignored him, her grip tightening on my arm. You won, okay? You proved you're better. Just give him the trucks. If he's broke, what's going to happen to me? The absolute selfishness of her words hung in the air. The pure, resilient female lead had finally ripped off her mask. She didn't love Brandon. She loved the security and power he represented. Now that it was gone, he was useless to her. Lucy, Brandon whispered, standing up slowly. You're only worried about the money? Of course I am, she shrieked, turning on him. I ruined my reputation for you. I failed my SATs for you. You said you were a billionaire heir, but you're just a stupid kid who lost everything to his ex-girlfriend. I gently pried Lucy's fingers off my jacket. Sounds like you two have a lot to talk about, I said smoothly. Enjoy the rest of your youth. I heard true love is innocent. I walked out of the cafe into the crisp, rain-washed air. Behind me, I could hear the muffled sounds of Brandon and Lucy screaming at each other, their toxic romance finally collapsing under the weight of reality. As I opened my umbrella, I looked up. The floating comments were malfunctioning. They flickered rapidly, turning gray, filled with question marks and angry rants about how the story was broken, how the characters were ruined, how the genre had been betrayed. And then, one by one, like embers burning out in the cold air, they faded away. The system crashed. The story was over. I stood there for a moment, waiting. Nothing appeared. No plot twists, no spoilers, no invisible audience judging my every move. The world was just the world, loud, messy, and entirely my own. I smiled, tightening my grip on my Stanford acceptance letter, and walked forward into my life. A life where I was no longer a villainous supporting character, but the author of my own destiny.